Disciple is a very familiar word to us if we've been in church all our lives. But we tend to sometimes think that that word is limited to the 12 guys or so, that Jesus spent his 3.5 year or so ministry with. But Matthew 28, 19 through 20, what we refer to as the Great Commission, Jesus tells us that a disciple is really just an ordinary Christian. The word itself means follower or learner in particular. And so as we see the disciples' lives throughout the life of the ministry of Jesus, these guys were learning from Jesus. They were learning to follow Jesus and imitate his life and be like him. And then you get to the Great Commission, and Jesus says, now you go and you make disciples. Of course, not of themselves, but disciples of Jesus. He says, all authority in heaven and earth has been given to me. Go therefore and make disciples of all nations, baptize them, and teach them all that I've commanded you, and I'm going to be with you in that. And so really the first word we're given for what a Christian is a disciple, a learner, a follower of Jesus. And apparently these learners or followers of Jesus are sent to help other people learn to follow Jesus, who help other people learn to follow Jesus. And so I think one of the first things that we have to just do away with is this idea that disciple only referred to those 12 that Jesus originally trained. That every Christian has been called by God to be a disciple and to help other people be disciples. And I think the thing we see from the beginning of Scripture all the way up to the Great Commission and beyond is that this was really always God's plan. God's plan was always for his people to multiply. So all the way back in the garden, you've got Adam. And Adam, the first thing Adam is told is, you've got dominion, and I want you to be fruitful and multiply. Now, on the one hand, it seems like Adam is just being told there to go have lots of babies. Like you've been made in the image of God. Now, therefore, you've got this dominion, and I want you to be fruitful and multiply. But you get underneath of what that command is really about, and it's about spreading the image of God. Adam, who's made in the image of God, is being called to multiply, be fruitful, and therefore fill the earth with the image of God. Well, of course, Adam fails at that. He doesn't do that. He sins and he rebels, and the image of God becomes marred and blurred. But this is the very mission, the very purpose that Jesus comes to restore and accomplish, is to fill the earth with image bearers of God, who are born not simply of the flesh, but born of God. And so, even from the beginning, even from the garden, the idea we see that God has for his people is that they would multiply and fill the earth with the image of God. And that's what a disciple is, and that's what discipleship is all about. We see this too with Paul. He tells his son in the faith, Timothy, in 2 Timothy 2:2, that what you've heard from me in the presence of many witnesses, entrust to faithful men who will be able to teach others also. And you see several generations of belief there being passed down. You've got from Paul to Timothy, and Timothy to these faithful men who will be able to entrust this gospel to others also. That even after Jesus has ascended into heaven and entrusted the ministry of the church into the disciples and apostles' hands, that's the ordinary experience of these disciples that are made, that they entrust what they have heard to others who entrust it to others. And so disciples are made, and the earth gets filled with the image and glory of God.